The date is 23rd day of December 2023 at 2 p.m. each day at the Kefi Polo Ranch, Abuja Kefi Expressway, in the ancient town of Kefi, Nasarawa State. In the light of the above, I very respectfully crave the indulgence of the Senate President, distinguished members of the Senate, to find time out of their tight legislative duties to honor me with your presence, as well as partner with us in the quest for meeting the educational needs of our constituents and people through this medium. While looking forward to receiving you all at the tournament, please accept the assurances of my highest regards and loyalty. This is signed by distinguished Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliu. Further announcement. This is from Distinguished Senator Asukwa Ekpeyon, inviting distinguished senators to please attend his Thanksgiving service in Calabar, and he has made available a 45-seater plane to carry senators from 9 a.m. on Saturday to Calabar and then bring them back by 4 p.m. of the same day. So any senator that is available and is not encumbered is welcome. So in advance, Distinguished Senator Asukwa Ekpeyon, congratulations for going back to give praise to God for your victories in the tribunal and also at the Court of Appeal. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Administration of Criminal Justice Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, HB 214. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Administration of Criminal Justice Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, HB 214, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Administration of Criminal Justice Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, HB 214, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Khalid Ibrahim Mustafa on the Tertiary Hospital Trust Fund Establishment Bill 2023 SB 243. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Tertiary Hospital Trust Fund Establishment Bill 2023, SB 243, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Tertiary Hospital Trust Fund Establishment Bill 2023, SB 243, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Abbas Aminu Iya on the Federal College of Health Technology, Song, Adamawa State, Establishment Bill 2023, SB 275. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Health Technology, Song, Adamawa State Establishment Bill 2023, SB 275, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal College of Health Technology, Song, Adamawa State Establishment Bill 2023, SB 275, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Musa Mohammed Sani on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2023 SB 280. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2023, SB 280, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2023, SB 280, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2023 SB 281. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2023, SB 281, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2023 SB 281, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Bitumen Development Commission Establishment Bill 2023 SB 07. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 20th July 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Jimoh Ibrahim Folorunsho to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Professor Jimoh Ibrahim.
Mr. Senate President, my most respected colleagues, senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, my name Jimoh Ibrahim Folorunsho. I stand before these most respected chambers to lead debates on the Bitumen Development Commission of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2023 SB 07. Mr. President, sir, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead debates on the general principles of the Bitumen Development Commission of Nigeria Establishment Bill. The bill was first read, as leader clearly stated, in these chambers on 28 July 2023. The bill, among other reasons, seeks to restrict the activities of the Commission to the regulatory and coordinating functions specific as relates to development or bitumen in Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may wish to know that the global in place bitumen and heavy oil resources are estimated to be 5.9 trillion barrels, 936 billion. More than 80% of those resources are found in Canada, United States, Venezuela, and Nigeria. Of specific, Mr. Senate President, Nigeria deposit of bitumen is second largest in the world. When passed, the objective of this bill includes among others, the need to develop a legal framework for the regulation of bitumen development in Nigeria to prevent unconventional sources from taking advantage of recharge-enhanced application over the competitors, to lead innovation and resource base in development of bitumen in Nigeria, to ensure effective utilization of over 38 billion reserve of bitumen in Nigeria, and to promote economic diversification policy of the federal government. Mr. Senate President, in compliance with our Order 76 Sub 3, the Senate Standing Order 2003 as amended, a financial compendium showing the financial implication of the bill is attached. Mr. Senate President, before I conclude, I also attach here, distinguished colleagues, a slide in respect of bitumen in Nigeria. You will realize from the slide number 1 that Nigeria is missing currently from a market base of 110 billion global market of bitumen in the world. As a matter of fact, this country plays less than 1% of 110 billion bitumen market. On the third slide, you will see clearly in a specific case of Ondo State, as reported by the World Bank, $42 billion bitumen is deposited in that state without no exploration. And this is put in Agbabu, Oderele, Igbotako, Odeaye, and Ajibandele. On the second to the last page of the slide, you will see in the coloration there, distinguished colleagues, that this bitumen we have in Nigeria is of top high quality. In fact, mixed with petroleum. So you can see from this slide, you see the color of the bitumen as well as petroleum deposits alongside with them in Epe, Ogun State, Epe in Lagos, Ogun State, Ajibandele J4, in Ondo State, and in Edo. Now, what do we stand to gain if this bill is passed? One, Mr. Senate President, we have the financial gain in the slide that I put on the second page, and then we have economic gain, which I do want to bother to explain. But it's very survive to say that Nigeria has second largest deposit of bitumen in the world, and it's important that we diversify this economy. It's important that we don't put heavy reliance on oil. I want to also direct the attention of our colleagues to the fact that only 30,000 kilometers of roads out of 200,000 have been addressed to in Nigeria, and bitumen is a function of this road functionality, and there is need for us to have this very importantly. Now, if we are having a budget, as we were discussing here yesterday, of about 26 trillion, now if we have 10% of the bitumen market, then of course we can fund our budget internally by ourselves. So we stand to gain a lot. Employment opportunity, exportation of bitumen itself, attending to over 200,000 kilometers of roads, having the material to use is very important, germane, to our economy. While concluding on the last slides we have here, then need for the establishment of the Act. Why do we need the Act? Number one, we need the Act because we have to prevent unconventional sources taking advantage of a recharge-enhanced application over competitors. Two, Nigeria has been unable to develop the industry despite enormous, often said narrative, government diversify economy, government policy, but the fact remains that bitumen is quite critical, and of course, this economic need it. Now, the Petroleum Act, I wouldn't need to bring this bill before your distinguished senators and Mr. President. I wouldn't have need to bring this one, but for the fact that the Petroleum Act itself did not even mention bitumen. So the Petroleum Act excluded bitumen, and that is the need. We need to have this. You remember the gas, where it was separated from petroleum. We were able to have a lot of animal resources because the gas was developed. Nigeria with 36 billion reserve in bitumen require a regulatory framework, Mr. Senate President. Mr. President, there is no one single law today that talks about bitumen. And we are 110 billion market for bitumen in Nigeria. Our road is 200,000 kilometers. Only 30,000 have been attended to. We need bitumen to make sure that these resources are actually looked into. And again, Mr. Senate President, innovation and strategy become a core value by the time we have bitumen commission. We have bitumen in Akwa Ibom, as I've said. We have bitumen in Ondo. We have bitumen in Edo. We have bitumen in Edo and Ogun State. And this, nothing is happening here. And the need for regulatory framework is very, very important. The need to diversify the economy by instrumentality of law, not by directive, not by executive order, but by law, is also sacrosanct to our national development, Mr. Senate President. And lastly, Mr. Senate President, my very most distinguished colleague, this bill, if passed, will clearly ratify, clearly bring clarity to the regulation framework and functions of Bitumen Development Commission of Nigeria to enhance business development in this country to conform with international best of practice. Mr. Senate President, even if we are to borrow money to develop bitumen today, there is no legal framework. So nobody can borrow us money when there is no any law. Even if we are to develop it and bring international skill, there is no law. We don't have any law. There is nothing can develop without law. And that is why this chamber is set up. This is why we are here by constitutional commandment to ensure that we do the needful, to ensure that we participate, Mr. Senate President, for 110 billion bitumen market in the world. How can we as a nation be having second largest depositor of bitumen in the world without participating in the market of $110 billion? I will at this junction respectfully ask for your indulgence, Mr. Senate President, my very distinguished colleagues, Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to give your credence and support to the passage of this development bill in order to enhance that our country move forward economically. Thank you, Mr. Senate President, for the time and my distinguished colleagues.
I would have termed it the bitumen lamentation of Professor Jim Ibrahim. Because he had finished so you gave us the general principles and merits of the bill, but you went further to ensure total lamentation when you look at what is happening around the world. Distinguished Senator Babangida.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator Babangida Hussaini, representing Jigawa Northwest. I rise to second the motion ably presented and beautifully crafted by Professor Jumo Ibrahim, lucid and straightforward, and I therefore wish to second the motion in toto. Having moved and seconded the motion, Mr. President, I wish to crave your indulgence to shed more light on the bill as it were and bring some salient issues which the professor himself has failed to raise in his lead debate paper. Thank you, sir. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we have 38,000 kilometers of federal highways. As I speak with you, arising from global environmental issues, these roads are in deplorable states. Further, our depleted foreign reserves is unable to catch up and to meet up with the demands of bitumen importation in Nigeria. And perhaps that explains the reason why the President Minister of Works is agitating for rigid pavement in road construction. However, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, 92.4% of roads globally are asphalt based. So therefore, if we are able to develop and to improve the exploration and development of the bitumen field in Ondo and other areas of the southwest, I believe we'll be saving the scarce foreign exchange that we use to import this bitumen. At the same time, there will be backward integration because other benefits that will accrue from developing the bitumen fields, employment generation, saving scarce foreign resources, as well as even application of the bitumen to other sectors, especially in the built industry, for moisture preservation, moisture protection, and other industrial uses will be enhanced. I therefore stand to commend the mover of this lead debate, Professor Jumo Ibrahim, and to also, he's a professor. He's a professor. In fact, Cambridge professor. So, sir, with this, I wish to support this lead debate and appreciate the effort of the mover of this bill. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished Senator Oshomole.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm grateful for the privilege of being asked to speak. I want to thank the mover of this, the sponsor of this particular bill. And I have listened attentively to the aims and objectives of this particular bill. Mr. President, with profound respect, I have difficulties in accepting that the creation of a commission will by itself lead to exploration of our bitumen. I think, Mr. President, that we have to be conscious of increasing overhead costs and creating more and more commission at a time when we have this much talked about Orosaye report, which already suggests that Nigeria federal government has too many commissions carrying out overlapping responsibilities. I hold the view with respect, sir, that it is not the absence of law that stopped Nigeria from exploiting bitumen and other solid mineral resources. It has to do with the will of the executive and the commitment of government to exploit all resources, whether liquid or solid. My worry is that at the time when we have very little resources, we are borrowing so much to meet overhead, to pay salaries. This Senate cannot be seen to be enacting laws that will lead to creation of more commissions, which will create more jobs for the elite, but will have no impact on the issue of bitumen, exploration of bitumen. I think we must consciously find a way to shrink the size of overhead of the federal government. I am not convinced that it is absence of law that led to the situation. It is not about the statistics. It is not about the usefulness of bitumen. Of course we need it. Those countries that have it don't necessarily have all the laws that we have. We have been exploiting oil, we have been exploiting. We may one day, sir, come up to enacting a law to develop the production of farming of yam and gari. I believe that all of these things are desirable. I don't want to be misunderstood. But I'm not convinced that we need yet another commission that will have a chairman, directors, board members, etc. We provide for their overhead, we provide for everything, we increase the cost of running government, and that will not by itself translate to exploration of bitumen. I want my brother to understand, and I'm happy you mentioned that we have bitumen in Edo State. But I do not believe that we need a law for government to recognize the need to exploit those bitumen. I'm just concerned that we shouldn't be creating more commissions, more agencies, when we can get these things done and use the money for the overhead for the actual purpose. I thank you, Mr. President, for the privilege of allowing me to speak on this. And I hope, Jibon, you will understand. It's nothing personal, it's about my conviction that...
This is Senator Neda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Neda Imaswine, representing Edo South Senatorial District. Professor Jumo, thank you for this bill. I think I wholeheartedly support it. I support it because the issue of diversification of our economy is something that we have not paid so much attention to. Rather, I think we have paid so much lip service to that. The bitumen that we need, that we are talking about, is what we actually need in this country. It's with us, just like anything else. Instead of exploring and adverting our minds to what we have within the country, there's the rush to always go out to import. And so we neglect what we have, and we neglect to develop seriously those things that we have. And bitumen is one of them. And I believe very sincerely that the exploration of this item will greatly help in dealing with our deplorable road situation that
perverts the whole country. There's no part of this country that do not have issues with bad roads. And one of the core products or elements in constructing our roads is bitumen, and it's a very expensive part of it. And of course, if we're able to do it right, foreign exchange, which we also need. We all know what is happening now with our naira to dollar. So we need more dollar to come into our economy. And so in consideration of this and many others, I sincerely will support this bill and ask that our colleagues should please support it in all entirety. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Abaribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I think that on this issue, we sincerely and unequivocally agree with Senator Jimo that bitumen is needed. But I think that we should go beyond this and also look at the fact that Nigeria used to have a refinery. The Kaduna refinery was made specifically for production of bitumen. And the way it was done was for you to, they were importing heavy oil from Saudi Arabia and then using it to produce bitumen. That Kaduna refinery, through our own all the incongruities in our country no longer working, does not mean that we should now say, let us just do something because of bitumen for roads in Nigeria. No, bitumen is nothing but heavy oil. Therefore, just like Senator Shomole has said, I do not think that it is outside the remit of the Petroleum Act for us to create another institution just because of bitumen. It's nothing but heavy oil. It's part of petroleum, which means that all we need to do is to recognize it within our laws and then exploit it in the manner that exploitation is done of all our petroleum resources. The petroleum resources range in Nigeria is from the gas to condensate, from condensate to now bitumen. We are not going to have to create different regimes for the different areas just because of that. I think that as much as we agree that we need this, as much as we agree that there is so much international use and need for bitumen, we should not make bitumen, otherwise tomorrow somebody will also say, let us create an institution for hypo fuel oil, which is part of the petroleum industry. This is merely part of the petroleum industry and must be recognized as such. I so submit.
Distinguished Senator Olare.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I want to thank Senator Jimo Ibrahim for this timely bill. You see, at least whether we add it to Petroleum Industry Act or we create a separate commission for it, the important thing is that Nigeria has a lot of deposits of bitumen that are not being utilized to add more to the our economic growth. I think our job here is to find a way of giving a serious attention to this bitumen, like any other one. Yesterday we were talking about gas. I will discover that the Petroleum Act did not sufficiently capture the gas aspect, which is another offshoot of this petroleum. Petroleum is the process of having petroleum. You have a lot of byproducts that are not captured in that act, and they are equally very important to the economy of Nigeria. I think it will help us if maybe we review the Petroleum Industry Act or we find another commission. My take is that serious attention should be given to other products of petroleum that are equally very important and will contribute significantly to our economy. If you are saying that we want to diversify, effort to be geared to all other areas that can add more to our economy instead of borrowing. So as I agree with Senator Ibrahim that these bitumen, we know where they are. I will know the importance, because the issue of using cement on our road will not work. Already we have too much pressure on the available cement in the construction and the building industry, and the price is already becoming very, very high to the people. So if you start using cement only for the road now, it's become unbearable for the common man, for the building industry. And this bitumen is what is commonly used more than 90% worldwide, and it's very useful. So we need it seriously, and whatever we need to do to make sure that they have the best use of it at this critical time is supported. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ezenwa.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Ezenwa Onyewuchi, and I represent Imo East Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have listened to the compelling argument of our colleague, Jimo Ibrahim. Mr. President, in all, the emphasis is on the importance of bitumen and the need to develop bitumen and that industry. A major impediment to our economic growth is bad network of roads. And that is what has given rise to high cost of goods and services. So, bitumen is critical not only to the road network, but to the economic growth of Nigeria. Mr. President, I want to also say that there's need to diversify this economy. And the argument that we're establishing too many commissions may not be considered critical at this point, because we cannot just say because we don't want to create commissions, therefore critical areas should not be looked into. I believe that the bitumen industry is very critical to our economic development, and as such, creating that commission is a way of paying adequate attention to the need to develop the bitumen industry. So I want to support this bill, and I want to also urge my colleagues to also support it. Thank you very much.
Dismissed Senator Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues. Henry Siraki Dixon, and I represent Bayelsa West. Mr. President, I rise to support the motion that this bill be read a second time. And in doing so, I recognize the importance of the issue raised by a distinguished Senator Shomole, who cautioned about proliferation of agencies, a fact we all know, and also a fact that was further stressed by distinguished Senator Abaribe. But I support what the last speaker, my dear colleague here, said, that this bill is all about drawing attention to an important area that has been neglected, an area that has a potential of earning $110 billion, as stated in the statistics that has been distributed to us. And besides, we all know the crisis in the construction industry, particularly with respect to the scarcity and the
prohibitive cost of cement and its byproducts. In all of this, Mr. President, there is need to support this bill so that it can go through the legislative process. And at the public hearing, I'm very sure, the experts, those in the petroleum sector and in the construction industry, will avail the relevant Senate committees and the National Assembly by extension of their expertise and their views as to whether any of the functions that are sought to be performed by this body is already covered by any existing legislation. And in that case, it may very well be that at the end of it, it may end up to be an agency or whatever. But that's a determination that we at this stage, in my view, cannot make. So I support that this bill be read a second time and referred to the relevant committees so that the experts can come and enlighten us. And after interacting with them, a determination will be made when we get the report as to whether we should go ahead with this bill as a commission or as an agency, or indeed whether the functions are already performed, or in other words, whether the field is already covered. But to dismiss it when we are dealing with a national crisis in the construction industry, a crisis of infrastructural development, and with a potential, in an area with a potential of attracting about $110 billion US dollars, just because we don't want to incur additional overheads. But that's also, as I considered earlier, a very valid point. But I think we should wait, tarry a while, defer our judgments, and allow the experts to guide us and participate in the legislative process so that we'll be better informed when we get the committee reports and make a determination whether this bill as proposed is superfluous, or indeed whether it should be scaled down to be an agency, and if so, which ministry it should be, and how it should be structured. I think those are determinations that can await the interaction with the experts. But all in all, I support the fact that this bill be read a second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Gadaga.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Chief Benson Sunday Gadaga is my name, representing Bayelsa East Senatorial District in Bayelsa State. I rise to buttress the point or the motion raised for the bill on bitumen exploitation to be read the second time. It's actually lamentable that successive governments in Nigeria continue to pay lip service to the much needed diversification of the country. Nigeria is said to be the giant of Africa. Giant in the sense that we have human capital in abundance, and we have a very vast area of land with a lot of natural endowments that have remained untapped. Bitumen, by the statistics we have here, is capable of contributing immensely to the economy of the country at a time when we have a lot of financial challenges. I think this bill is apt, this motion is apt, and we need to work with it to make sure that we contribute to the economy of the country. I am an apostle, or I believe in the use of concrete or pavements to work on roads, especially for those of us in the Niger Delta, where swift floods normally wash away our roads, the asphalted roads. But yet, a greater part of the country where flood does not affect can use bitumen to work on them. At a time when fuel subsidy has been removed, we need to work on our roads to get them effective. And so I'm in full support of the motion to read this bill the second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank you.
Let me, Distinguished Senator Ekong Samson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ekong Samson is my name, Akwa Ibom South. I have noticed that there is a tide of opinion on this matter, but what cannot be disputed is the merits that we have to explore further the abundance of our wealth. This is very key because as a growing economy, there have been concerns raised about the need for us to diversify. It's very, very critical. Principally, I hold the opinion that this bill should be allowed to run its course. It doesn't mean that however it goes, that the debate has ended. Perhaps we need to expand the range of inquiry. Let others also contribute. If this bill goes towards a bigger body of opinion, where experts, where Nigerians can contribute more, I think there are some lessons to be learned. We are worried about this attention to a mono economy. It has not really helped us. And yet this country is so blessed. God in his infinite mercies has given us abundance of resources. I think there's a principle for us to explore further. See what comes out of the bowels of our earth and see what we can strengthen the flanks of our economy. To this extent, I don't think that we will lose anything if this bill is exposed to further inquiry. Let there be even more debates. Let the public come out with its own opinion. Let the inquiries be expanded. We will gain even further in that there may well be more discoveries from the abundance of our wealth and how we can regulate our behavior in terms of our investments. That is my own contribution, that the bill be allowed to run its course subject to public opinion. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, let me thank the distinguished Senator Professor Jimo Ibrahim for his well thought out late debate, elucidating, enumerating the general principles and merits of this proposed bill, and also thank members for their divergent opinions and contributions, which of course enrich the entirety of the debate. And now I will put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Bitumen Development Commission of Nigeria and provide a legal framework for the promotion of research, study, investment, exploration, production, exportation, development and utilization of locally sourced bitumen in Nigeria and for related matters 2023. Second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Bitumen Development Commission of Nigeria and provide a legal framework for the promotion of research, study, investment, exploration, production, exportation, development, and utilization of locally sourced bitumen in Nigeria and for related matters therewith. Second reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, Having read this bill for the second time, it is now referred to the Committee on Solid Minerals to report back to the Senate in 2 weeks. Okay, please report back to the Senate in 1 month because of they need to do a thorough job, including public hearing, consultations with stakeholders in the industry and all. Yeah, no, then let's do it in 1 month, please. So 1 month. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Environmental Impact Assessment Bill 2023, SB 04. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 20th July 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Mohammed Tahir Mongunu to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Mongunu.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohammed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. I crave the indulgence of these honored chambers to move for a bill for an act to repeal the Environmental Impact Assessment Act 2004 and enact the Environmental Impact Assessment Act 2023 to set out general principles, procedures, and methods to enable the prior consideration of environmental impact assessment on certain public and private projects and for related matters, 2023. Mr. President, I wish to crave your indulgence to lead the debate for the second reading of this bill. Distinguished senators, one fundamental principle of law is that laws are not meant to be static. Laws are supposed to be organic. They are supposed to change to reflect the existing subjective and objective realities of society. And it was against this backdrop that there is the need to repeal and reenact the Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 2003 because it has become moribund, it has become obsolete, and no longer in tandem with the realities of the Nigerian society today. Your Excellency, the President, distinguished senators, I stand to seek your valued support to allow that the bill instanta be read a second time. The bill seeks to repeal the Environmental Impact Assessment Act and enact the Environmental Impact Assessment Bill 2023 with the intent of setting out general principles, procedures, and methods to enable the consideration of the environmental assessment on certain public or private projects. Distinguished senators, the objective of this bill, among other things, are to promote the implementation of appropriate policies consistent with all laws and decision-making process through which the goals and objectives of the bill can be realized, and encourage the development of procedures for information exchange, notification, and consultation between organs and persons who propose projects or activities that are likely to have significant effects on boundary, national, or interstate, or on the environment bordering towns, villages, and communities. The bill consists of 73 clauses divided into 4 parts and a schedule. Part 1 defines the general principle of environmental impact assessment. Part 2 of the bill is about what constitute environmental impact assessment projects. Part 3 is on supplemental assessment, and Part 4 is on miscellaneous provisions. Distinguished senators, the gamut of the bill is contained in Part 3, which requires persons or authority desiring to establish an organization, be it private or otherwise, to subject such a project to environmental impact assessment through the necessary bodies. However, Clause 15 excluded some projects from going through the environmental impact assessment, such as projects to be carried out during periods of national emergency. Simply put, this bill seeks to establish a mechanism through which, before any project is cited, the impact to the community must be ascertained, such as the environmental impact of the project to the community in terms of social benefits, educational benefits, etc. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I am craving your indulgence and inviting you to support the second reading of this bill with the speed of light, so that it will go to the committee for them to look at the nitty-gritty of the bill. Thank you.
Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East. I stand to second this bill because of its importance to our national development. There have been rampant cases everywhere around the country of building collapses or degradation of the environment that we've been having due to certain projects that were located where they do not supposed to be located, or construction of buildings that are made not to be in a particular place. And not just that, even today the agricultural sector is finding it very difficult to be sustained because of the desertification that we're having. But if impact assessment is done in our environment, I believe that all these issues will be tackled before they even occur. So I stand to support this bill, and I plead with my colleagues. It's a very straightforward bill, so I plead with my colleagues to also support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support this bill, and I would like to add a few clarifications. Number one, since this is a bill that seeks to repeal and reenact, it should be put in the title of the bill. The bill simply says Environmental Impact Assessment Bill, and therefore does not give us an essence of what the bill is all about. All bills are due at any time, even when you have just passed a bill and it makes it into an act, you can amend it the next day. So there's no problem in amendment, but we have to be sure that everything what we say. Secondly, the objective simply seems to just rephrase what is in the already existing act. I would have expected that since this was a bill that seems to reassess what is there, it doesn't have to go with the general principles and procedures and all that. You will tell us these are the faults, or these are the areas of the previous bill that you need to amend. I think this is just too general for every one of us to understand, but maybe when we get to after the second reading and we'll get to the act proper, we will see those particular areas. Those areas ought to have been put in this second reading. But I second that the bill be read a second time.
Well, this is very straightforward, but I tend to agree with Senator Abaribe that it would have been good to, the merits and the general principles could have highlighted the areas of concerns and also the benefits that the reenactment will be, particularly since this is a repeal and reenactment and all that. But like he said, if our colleagues are minded to send it for a second reading, then maybe you'll be able to highlight more. So I don't think it's very straightforward. So I'll put the question. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, Cap E12, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Environmental Impact Assessment Act 2023 to set out general principles, procedures, and methods to enable the prior consideration of environmental impact assessments on certain public or private projects and for related matters 2023, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, Cap E112, LFN 2004, and enacts the Environmental Impact Assessment Act 2023 to set out general principles, procedures, and methods to enable the prior consideration of environmental impact assessment on certain public or private projects and for related matters therewith, 2023. Second reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, having read the bill for the second time, this bill is now referred to the Committee on Environment to report back to the Senate in 1 month. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the third order of the day is the second reading of the National Security Advisor, Appointment of Staff, etc., Bill 2023 SB 250. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 7th November 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Buba Umar Shehu to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
The Clerk of the Senate. Distinguished Senator Shobuba.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Buba Umar, representing Bauchi South Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this very critical and important bill, which seeks to provide a framework for the appointment of staff of the Office of the National Security Advisor and for the retention of quality and skilled manpower for institutional memory and effective performance of the responsibilities of the Office of the National Security Advisor, ONSA. The bill was read the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, the 7th November 2023. The Office of the National Security Advisor relies primarily on secondment from the military, law enforcement, and intelligence services, and contract for its staffing. Over time, some contract staff providing critical knowledge, best services in the office have worked for upward of 10 years without any plan for their pensions, health insurance, and other benefits as obtained in the security sector and public service. The enabling instrument, therefore, did not clarify on the appointment of permanent staff. This bill proposes that the National Security Advisor, subject to the approval of the President, appoint such number of staff as he deems necessary and expedient for the proper and efficient performance of the functions of his office. Centers and programs established under the office in line with the extant laws and regulations. The bill also proposes that pathway for the staff discipline and regulations, pensions, gratuity, and retirement benefits for permanent staff other than those seconded from the services. The very essence of this bill, Mr. President, and my highly respected distinguished colleagues, is one, that the Office of the National Security Advisor is charged with the managing key national security coordination platforms, including National Security Council established under the Constitution. More so, the expanding role of the Office of the National Security Advisor in the area of cyber security, education security, nuclear, chemicals, biological security, environmental security, food security, border security, maritime security, and counter-terrorism oversight, among others, point to the need for the resourcing of the office with modern and specialized skill sets. Furthermore, the National Security Strategy 2019 incorporates human security measures, including education security, health security, and environmental security, among others. Critical investment in ICT infrastructure in the office also requires a build-up of its administrative capacity to effectively function. Thus, the need to attract permanent civil and non-staffing structure in addition to the second workforce, which is usually not more than 3 years at a time. This will ensure institutional memory and effective transition between governments. The office also oversees critical national security programs on behalf of the President that requires consistency, programs management, monitoring, and evaluation. These programs include presidential amnesty programs, National Counter-Terrorism Center, and National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, among others. This will require the sourcing of experienced and highly skilled Nigerians in the area of research and development, food and environmental security, cyber security, artificial intelligence, data mining, national security law, forensics, oil and gas security, among others. Empowering the National Security Advisor to maintain permanent staffing will strengthen the capacity of his office to effectively coordinate and ensure a result-based national security planning for our country and improve interagency coordination. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the passage of this bill will strengthen the Office of the National Security Advisor, ONSA, as a reliable tool to solving the security challenges bedevil our country and also serve as an enduring legacy of this administration. I therefore, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, recommend the bill for the second reading. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished Senator Izunaso.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Osita Izunaso. I represent Imo West. I stand to support this bill to be read a second time for the following reasons. Office of National Security Advisor Mr. President, is a very sensitive office that does not require the caliber of staff that are being used there at the moment. A situation where you have only contract staff that will work in the Office of National Security Advisor that are not pensionable and they only collect money as casual staffs and we go at the end of whenever that particular NSA is going. I don't think Mr. President is right. Mr. President, I seek for your protection, Mr. President. Mr. President.
Order, order.
Mr. President, I seek for your protection. Mr. President.
Mr. President.
I seek for your protection, Mr. President.
You are protected.
Now that I'm protected, I may wish to continue. Mr. President, I think this is a very straightforward bill. It does not require too much consideration in the sense that the bill is seeking for the National Security Advisor to be allowed, that office to be allowed to appoint its own staff with the approval of Mr. President. And such staff are needed for research, for documentation, for a lot of things that are needed in such a very highly exalted office. So I believe that it is not something that we are going to use casual staff to work in the Office of National Security Advisor. In fact, I must commend Senator Buba for bringing this bill now because it is long overdue. I'm sure that most Nigerians do not even know that the staff of National Security Advisor are casual staffs. So I think that this bill should be read a second time because it is apt, it is necessary, and it is something that is needed, particularly at this point in time of our history. I so support, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Joel Onakwabu.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support this bill for a second reading. Mr. President, the Office of the National Security Advisor is very, very important to our country. And I want to particularly commend my distinguished colleague, Senator Buba Shehu, for bringing this bill to the floor of the Senate. Mr. President, following the comments of my distinguished colleague, the National Security Advisor's Office cannot and should not continue to rely on contract staff or staff that are secondary to the office for the fact that the National Security Advisor's Office requires its own permanent staff who can be used for information gathering, intelligence development of the country. And not doing so will mean that the National Security Advisor's personnel are subject to other institutions of government. They are moved out of those offices. The truth is that there will be a gap in the process. So, Mr. President, this bill is very straightforward, and I want to urge my colleagues to support the reading of this bill for a second time. I so submit.
Distinguished Senator Oshimole.
Thank you, Mr. President. My names remain the same. Adams Aliu Eric Oshimole, representing the great people of Edo North and Nigeria workers. So I rise to support that this bill be read for the second time. And like the last distinguished senator said, the issues are pretty straightforward. I think in doing so, I'd like to commend the initiative of Senator Buba Shehu for proposing this bill. The world has changed, and the world changes extremely fast. In some ways, dangerously so. And so national security issues have become even much more complex today than they were 20 years ago. With the advancement in technology, in ICT, artificial intelligence, all of that has gone to complicate the security environment within which we live. It is unthinkable to imagine that those charged with the responsibility of coordinating and managing our national security are not even permanent and specialized staff in the agency. It is clear to me as a worker that if my employer has no provision for my long-term sustenance, including my pension and career progression, I cannot give my best. I believe, sir, like it is very well eloquently argued by the sponsor of this bill, that the National Security Office requires experts in various fields, recruit, train, and retain, and they should be so well remunerated, and they should be able to look at their post-retirement life with sufficient pension benefit like you have in the rest of the civil service. I might even add, much more attractive than the rest of the civil service, so that they are not tempted to go away with the knowledge they would have acquired in the course of serving the country in the office of the National Security Advisor. So, sir, I urge my colleagues, we all need security. We need modern approaches to national security. The world has become very, very complicated, and everything that is stated by the sponsor of this bill, I think that for me, I have no difficulty, not only in understanding, but in endorsing them in total, and see that in the course of public hearing, if there are other things that are omitted, they should be so incorporated so that we have a national security office that covers all of us and that is up to date and is capable of dealing with all the challenges with regards to modern technology in a world that is ever changing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Please, let's be brief so that others can also contribute. Distinguished Senator Johanna Amos.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I am Amos Johanna, representing Adamawa North. Mr. President, we cannot overflog this particular bill and its importance. In an office as important as the National Security Advisor, it is not healthy that people go in there, work for a few months, and walk away. And so we need to make it permanent. We need to make the people there to work with sense of responsibility and commitment. We also want to hold them accountable for what they do for the security of our dear country. And so I rise to support in total that this bill be passed for the second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is anybody opposed to this bill? Yes. Distinguished Senator Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Henry Siriake Dixon, Bayelsa West. Mr. President, in raising the concerns I want to raise, I'm aware of the nature of the office we are talking about, that is the Office of the National Security Advisor. But let me put a few things in proper context so we know exactly what we are talking about. The current situation is that the NSA being a peculiar coordinating office. The NSA's office is a National Security Coordinating Office. And because of that, and that is the standard all over, officials and officers from national security institutions are seconded from the various services to constitute his team. And they are there, whether NSA stays or goes. They are primarily officers in the various security services.
Now, if there is need for anybody outside those institutions and the public service who is not seconded to his team, the NSA has powers to appoint them as consultants. As consultants on agreed terms. On agreed terms. The worry some of us have, because of the sensitivity, I know my good friend and brother is trying to strengthen that institution by this. But that office is so sensitive that let us not, in the process of trying to strengthen it, either weaken it or create other sets of problems that we can't envisage. Because in that office, you have all elements of our national security apparatus represented, duly seconded by their primary agencies. You have soldiers, you have naval officers, you have army officers, you have naval officers, you have air force officers, you have state security officers, you have police officers, you have immigration officers, and so that's the idea of the National Security Officers Advisor's Office, because it's a national coordinating officer. The man who sits down and at the press of a button, he gets all the information from all the services and then briefs the president. The worry some of us have in the light of this, even though we appreciate the concerns of our dear chair, and it's my chairman, and I'm a member of that committee, is that let us not, by trying to strengthen it, create a problem. Create a sovereignty within a sovereignty, as a friend rightly put it. How do you, so even a president, if he assumes office, the officers working there are the people, the civil servants, and the people he works with. He can make his political appointments and so on and so forth. So my worry is that let us proceed with caution. And my honest advice is not that the bill be refused at this stage, but maybe step down. Yes, step down, so that we can have further consultation on this subject matter, because it's very important. The NSA has powers to consult, to hire any consultant on any issue. And that's probably the closest security person to the president. So in tampering with the structures that have worked so far, not perfect, we should be careful. So I will advise that we stand it down for further consultation. I so move.
Any seconder? Dismiss Senator Baribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Baribe, Abia South, I second the proposal that we proceed with caution. The impression being given that it is temporary staff, it's actually a very wrong impression. They are not temporary staff. They are staff of institutions of national security. They are police, they are army. So, from their intelligence arms, from their other arms, they can be brought in there, and then they do they are not temporary. My worry is what Senator Dixon had just come. If we now say the National Security Advisor should have the ability to hire, and then he hires some people who see themselves as permanent staff, then you create a problem of rivalry. Who determines what? And this is national security, in which the most unbiased opinion should go to the president of the country. So we need to actually be a little careful, much more than what we want to do. Every national security advisor may want to create an empire for himself. That is normal. People like to build empires, but we don't give them that power. You must always temper that power. Everywhere in the world, anybody can be a national security advisor. Then, depending on what the president sees as his priorities, Whether his priority is internal security, his priority is external security, his priority is one thing or the other. The job of that national security advisor is always to garner enough information to make him make the right decision. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded. But before I put the question, I'd like to hear from the distinguished Senator Shehu Buba. Did you get the motion that was moved? Did you understand the motion? That the bill be stepped down for further consultations in view of the peculiar nature of the office. What is your comment?
Moved by Senator Dixon and distinguished Senator Abaribe. But I think, sir, as rightly commended by the distinguished Senator Ozinaso and other senators, this bill is straightforward, sir. There is no any ambiguity in it. And the reality of the matter is that these staffs that are being hired or maybe sent to work in the Office of National Security, they are temporary staff, sir. And this is office that is started with the responsibility of securing the intelligence of our country.
So, distinguished colleagues, in the course of the debate, the motion has been moved and seconded by our colleague that we step down the bill for further consultations. The bill is not dead, but for further consultation because of the peculiar nature of the security. Those who are in support of this motion say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the bill is hereby stepped down. Leader of the Senate.
Well, Mr. President, distinguished senators, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn to Tuesday, 28 November 2023 at 10 a.m. I so move, Mr. President.
So the leader of the Senate, you are not moving for any extension of time today? Because it has been it's such a regular thing that you keep extending time and then most committee works are suffering. With the minority leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to second the motion moved by the Senate leader that the House do adjourn today till Tuesday next week, 28th of November. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate session stand adjourned to the 28th day of November, Tuesday, at 11 a.m. prompt. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate say adjourned.